My name is Sara Villagio, and I'm the Director of Marketing at Jazz at Lincoln Center here in New York City. I've been with the organization about 10 years, and I'm going to give you a little background about Jazz at Lincoln Center as part of my presentation so that you can understand my approach a little better. The mission of Jazz at Lincoln Center is to entertain, enrich, and advocate for a global community for jazz through performance, education, and advocacy. Here you see our venue, located at Broadway and 60th Street, Columbus Circle, here in New York. This is the marquee outside. We're also above a Whole Foods, if you didn't know. That's a really handy thing. And I'm going to talk you through our 3 performance spaces, which is what my team and I are primarily responsible for marketing. And my team is here today. They're a big part of making all of this kind of come to life, so kudos to them, and thank you. This is Rose Theater. Rose Theater seats about 1,200 people. It's our largest performance space, and it's designed like an Italian opera house, so seating is in the round. And this you see here is the opening night of our hall back in 2004, and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra is doing a second line parade to kick off the celebrations. Here you see the Appel Room. It really helps that we have a fabulous venue with a fabulous view to excite people about our music. The Appel Room seats about 480 people, is designed like a Greek amphitheater, and the most stunning feature is the fact that the backdrop that the audience sees is a 50-foot wall of glass overlooking Central Park South and Columbus Circle. And last but not least, Dizzy's Club Coca-Cola. If you haven't been there, you need to check it out. It's a lot of fun. It helps that there's a full-service restaurant and bar. That always makes the arts more engaging, right? We do 2 to 3 sets of music here a night. We're open 360 days a year, so we have a lot of seats to move. And last but not least, education is a core part of our mission and activity, and our team also helps market our education programs. So whether they're Weebop for the littlest hipsters, starts at 6 months and goes all the way up to any age you would like to be, in programs like Swing University or continuing education for all ages. Okay. So here we go, diving into the good stuff. Copy is everything. And if you know me at all, you know that I get really passionate about this subject. I feel really strongly about how important words are in the course of our day-to-day lives. Someone like Nora Ephron, writer of delightful romantic comedies such as You've Got Mail, When Harry Met Sally, I mean, you really just can't go wrong. If she's saying this, I think we need to pay attention. And as arts marketers, I think that we have a unique opportunity to speak on behalf of the arts. Think about it. Music, dance, theater can't always speak for itself in the medium that you're speaking in. When you're trying to reach people, how do you communicate to them? And sometimes words are the thing that makes someone take a second look, or it makes them go right on by. And I was going to say like a Craigslist missed connection. That's one-sided, but anyway, you get my point, is that this can be the difference in someone taking another look at what you want them to see. So that's what we're going to do today. Use your words, quick tips for digital copy success. So my presentation is really about 4 key things. Number 1, teamwork. Number 2, inspiration. Number 3, results. Number 4, practice. And when we leave here today, I want you to feel empowered to take all of these things back to your organization, no matter what your budget size is, no matter what your team size is, and actually put them into practice. Make good use of everything that you learned today. So let's dive right in. Meet Ollie Jackson, Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra drummer. He often has this expression on his face as he's performing a show. It's kind of a contrast from our last drummer who always smiled, but I like to show this image because I think that Ali he's frowning. He looks like he's frustrated about something, and that's my point, that writing copy is really easy to get frustrated by. We all get frustrated by it, myself included, and I think that that's okay. It's normal to feel that way. Our mission states, because jazz is improvisational, it celebrates personal freedom and encourages individual expression. Wow. I could not be blessed with a greater art form to market that actually serves the purpose of this presentation. So thanks, Jazz. That's what I mean. We have the chance to be the voice of art when things cannot otherwise speak for themselves. So I want to ask you, as we dive into this, do you want to make people feel something? Because you have a chance to make someone feel something before they even step foot in your theater. And I think that's possible through Facebook, through email, through all of these platforms that we're talking about today. The people you see here are people who are actually doing something at Jazz at Lincoln Center. On one side, you have our dancers. We have a late night dance session at Dizzy's where we push aside the tables and people can get their dancing shoes on and go nuts. You see some students, high school students, participating in our essentially Ellington High School Jazz Band Festival and Competition, backstage getting ready to go on the main show. And there you have one of our Weeboppers, because Weebop is a great name for a little kids program. They're all having a good time. And that's a big part of our brand. We think that jazz makes you feel good. Whether you play it, sing it, write it, support it, buy a ticket, it feels good. And that's what we're here to talk about. So that brings me to the jazz approach. What is it? Number one, it's a team thing. Just like an ensemble on a stage or a cast at a show, it takes every single person contributing in some unique way to come up with the most successful answer to a problem. Think about it. Obviously, we all know that many heads are better than one. But if an idea, a unique original idea, is not shared, then how can it grow from there? How can it get more powerful, more larger? How can it get better? So sharing ideas is key, I think, to success. More minds are powerful than one. In our department, sometimes it takes a series of about 20 to 30 emails to actually come up with a copy for one Facebook post. So we take it really seriously. And Emma, my colleague, said something the other day that really stuck with me, which was that you don't have to be in the same room to have an effective brainstorm. We all love meetings, right? Right? Who's with me? Who loves a good meeting? Because nonprofits never do that. Just saying. But that's the point. You can do this over email. You could be texting. You could do however it works for you. Brainstorming is virtual just as much as everything else is that we're working on. So that's my point. Keep calm. Teamwork makes the dream work. Number two, inspiration is everywhere. How many times have you been sitting on the subway and you look around you, or wherever, because I know there's people here who are not from New York, sorry, and you see people all around you whose heads are down. They're looking at their phones. And while I cringe a little bit talking to a group of digital evangelists about picking your head up from your digital device, I think it's really important to look up, pick your head up, and look at what's around you. What are people reacting to? What do you see that you like or dislike? How do you feel about it? So I encourage you to seek inspiration everywhere as inspiration for what you're doing in your day-to-day work. So, one of my inspirations. Meet Wynton Marsalis. He's a pretty easy target for inspiration. But he's the managing and artistic director of Jazz at Lincoln Center. And in 1987, he co-founded the organization with a staff member at Lincoln Center as a summer concert series. He's the only musician to ever win Jazz and Classical Music Grammy Awards in the same year. And he was also the first person to win a Pulitzer Prize for writing jazz. I'm pretty lucky to work with such an inspiring and engaging leader. So, summarized from Keith Reinhard's book, Any Wednesday, and I'll get into Keith in a minute, a true artist considers the audience an important part of the creative act. If your audience doesn't feel or react the way that you want them to, it might be time to go back to the drawing board. Wynton's original quote was, "It can't just be weird, man, you have to dig it." And Keith, being the word genius that he is, Keith is here today somewhere, so thank you, Keith, for coming to support me today. Keith's on our board, and he's someone who also has a great knowledge with words. He came up with Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is there. I would sing that, but you won't recognize it if I sing it. And You Deserve a Break Today from McDonald's, and I'm truly honored that he helped me with this presentation, so thank you, Keith. So that brings me to my next point on inspiration. Who is doing it well? This was really fun to find some samples of people who are doing it well. I had a good time doing this. Let's take this next one in for a second. Love means never having to say, I'm sorry, my kickball trophy fell on the baby again. Okay, Manhattan Mini Storage. Okay, if you've seen Manhattan Mini Storage, I think they do something pretty phenomenal with their ad space. And that is, they're taking something as dull as storage and putting a unique emotional connection in front of their audiences. They're a great example of how you can be playful with copy, but still get the point across, really. And they have a great call to action here. Their call to action is very simple, actually. Manhattan Mini Storage is just their information, but they go right to that emotional connection and then get to the benefits. Starting at $29, free move. I love Manhattan Mini Storage. My next source of inspiration is JetBlue. So the first time I saw this graphic, I actually thought it was an ad because it's laid out so cleverly. They take the time when they're coming up with their ad template to actually write their ad template in the voice of their brand. Thought that was pretty fascinating. And you can look at this sample as almost like a mini checklist of things that they do to create a compelling advertisement. Clever double entendre with a touch of humanity. Thanks, JetBlue. You get the point. It's a headline that has an emotional connection. Straight shooting payoff for the customer. What are the benefits for the customer if you fly with JetBlue? Whimsical visual reinforcement. It might be kind of hard to see that over there on the right. I think that's always something to add a little bit of play to your ad. Also, hard-hitting call to action. Excellent, of course, we always need a call to action. And last but not least, the tagline at the bottom. So, here we see what JetBlue has put into real life. Someone has to stand up for tall people. I'm not tall, I'm probably in the middle, but it's something that a lot of people can easily grab onto. I think that being tall or short is a pretty relatable concept in our culture, right? If you're one of the short people or the tall people, you're always thinking about those things. And now, if you're tall, JetBlue is standing up for you. The most legroom in coach. Fly now, direct call to action. I love in this ad that they end with that tagline that really is driving it back to the customer. You above all. This next example from our friends at Roundabout Theater here in New York, my favorite thing about it is the clickable call to action at the bottom. To me, this is a great example of a different type of call to action. It's something that the reader can grab onto because can't you visualize it? When you get to a restaurant or a show that's a cabaret style show, and I'm not a big Broadway fan, but I'm a music fan, but some of you know that really well. But I can picture this. This got me interested. Right this way, your table's waiting. Book now. It's so simple, but think if someone can actually visualize themselves taking that action instead of buy now, why not do that? I'm kind of obsessed with this Facebook post from Christian McBride. Let's just take it in for a second because it's amazing. I'm showing this because Christian McBride, if you don't know him, he's a Grammy Award-winning bass player and big band leader. And he's pretty funny. And what I really enjoy about his Facebook page is that his posts sound like they're coming authentically from him. He's really honed his voice. And here, we see him actually kind of harnessing a social media trend that was happening at that moment, the movie Straight Outta Compton that came out. And he's using it to talk about what he does, music, shows, tickets, straight outta comp tickets, man. What up, dog? So the thing that's cool about Christian's Facebook page is that he doesn't always have clever sales messages. But if he's taking the time to come up with this type of engaging moment, this conversation, this dialogue that he can have with people, then he can weave those sales messages in the thread. And he still, if you go look at his page, you'll see that he still gets some pretty good engagement on sales messages that are pretty direct and to the point. I'm coming to a theater near you, and here are the tickets. So that can work too. So, okay. I think it's also important to draw inspiration from from brands that are not doing it so well. It's about to get ugly in here. Okay, who wants now, after seeing this, to enter the electrical or plumbing field in less than 8 months? So we all know when we see these things that they're terrible. Why are they terrible? I think that's really the important point. When you look at an ad that you know is bad, you have to try and think about what makes it so awful. And in this case, I think it's really obvious that they're talking about features over benefits. So that's something you're going to hear me say a lot today. Even if you can distill a benefit from all of this, you have to take an extra second to figure out what they are. Like, it's great that there's financial aid available if you qualify, but maybe there's another way to say that really makes it about what the viewer is seeing at that exact moment and what they think they can take away from it. There's also not a great call to action here. It's really busy, so they're trying to make a lot happen in a small space. Okay, when I said ugly, this is really what I meant. Yikes, sorry. Okay, it's gross, I know. But yeah, you all groaned for a reason. Who wants to look at pictures of other people's feet? I mean, maybe somebody does, but not me. And these ones are really have some issues going on. But what is wrong with this ad? Okay. Where do I even begin? There are so many messages happening. You really have no idea what you're supposed to do when you read it. There's no white space. I love at the top that they start with this platelet-rich plasma therapy, and then there's an acronym, because we never use acronyms in the arts, right? Anyone? I don't know. At my organization, all we do is say things like JALC, MSJA, EE. What the heck does that mean? SOM? I don't know. But our customers don't know what those things mean. We may know what they mean, but they definitely don't. So yeah, there's a lot of moments here, and you don't really know what to do when you look at an ad like this. So that brings me to my next point. Strong message plus great language equals results. This is a quick checklist that I developed when I was strategizing about this session with Eric that I think is an easy way for you to check your work. When you're writing Facebook copy, when you're putting together an email, I think all of these things can directly apply to what you're putting together. User-oriented language. We saw how JetBlue did it. How do you do it? How do you speak to your audience in a way that grabs them, is compelling, that feels genuine? And I think that one of the things to remember is that if you don't know your institution's brand, then you're going to have to figure out what that is to have the most impact. I also think speaking to a user, if you visualize that audience as a party of one instead of all of you, that you will have more success speaking to someone. And mass versus individual. Clear benefits. There we go again, benefits over features. So a feature is defined as something that's a very surface level component. And the way I think of a feature is, for example, if you're a doctor, you might speak to doctors about patients in one way. You might say something about a bone, and I'm not even going to try to come up with an example here because I'm not a doctor. But you speak in a technical language that doctors understand. But if you're a doctor talking to a patient, you're going to approach that conversation much differently, I hope. Another clear example of benefits over features, Apple. We all love Apple. I bet a lot of you have some iPhones in your pockets. But the way they advertise an iPhone, is it more interesting to hear 16 gigabytes of storage or 1,000 songs in your pocket? So that's features over benefits. The third thing, connection to the art form. We're in the arts. We talked a lot about this earlier, but you have this unique opportunity, again, to make people feel something before they even walk through the doors. And I think that words can do that. I firmly believe that words can make you feel something, and I think you've all experienced that in your day-to-day life. So when you approach writing for these platforms, think about how you can make someone feel something genuine. And last but not least, closing with that killer call to action. And I encourage you to think of calls to action as more than just buy tickets. How else can you say that? So diving right in. Okay, we have some pretty obnoxious ROIs here that I'm really proud of, to be honest. And thank you to both Shira and Jana, who are here somewhere, but they have pushed us over the last couple of years to really get creative about the way we talk about subscriptions. I would argue that most 20-somethings have no idea what a subscription is or why they should have one. Yet we all think that they should, right? We all want those people to buy subscriptions. And I think there's always that argument at conferences that subscriptions are a dying model. I don't think they are. And I think that you can still tell people in a unique and clever way that we have something that's of value to them. So in this example featuring Monty Alexander, Monty is a Jamaican pianist who was discovered at the young age of 17 by Frank Sinatra. And he's probably one of the most entertaining storytellers and musicians I've ever had the chance to see. So that's a plug, shameless plug for my show that's coming up in February. Anyway, the beauty of jazz is that it's pretty much up to your interpretation. And subscribing is too. So here, we took a concept that was core to jazz, core to our art form, that when you witness a jazz performance, it's up to you what you take in from that, how you feel about it. And so is subscribing. You know you best. We're going right to the customer here. Again, it feels like you're talking directly to somebody. I love this call to action. Pick any 3 concerts for all of the perks and none of the rules. So we started out a little bit serious with this kind of deep moment with jazz, but then at the end of it, it got a little playful too, which I like. Here's another example of us going right to the customer. You asked, we listened. So we're saving you the best seats in the house. Subscribing isn't what it used to be. We've all changed what we have to offer over the years, right? I mean, subscriptions have changed, how you sell tickets has changed, what you're selling has changed. And if you have something new to say, let them know. Subscribing isn't what it used to be. This is Jared Grimes, stylish tap dancer extraordinaire. My point in saying that he's stylish is that he is stylish just like some other things, exceptional music and great seats. So here it's kind of it's harnessing that culturally relevant moment. Some things never go out of style. We've all heard that said in any number of contexts. So music doesn't go out of style either, and neither do great seats. Jumping into a few examples from Dizzy's. Skyline views meet world-class jazz talents. Going back to that point I made earlier about enabling your reader to visualize an experience or moment when they're reading what you're saying. I think that's so important. If you can visualize yourself doing something, I think you're more likely to buy it, to participate in it, to engage in it. And my main point here, this call to action, see what you've been missing. Can you make someone feel like they're missing out if they don't participate in what you have to offer? One more Disney's example. Who says New York City has to be expensive? New York is expensive, and our jazz club is not always expensive. Jazz clubs are definitely perceived as expensive. You have to pay a cover charge. There's a food and beverage minimum. It sounds complicated if you're not familiar with it, but here we just wanted to show people that there's an option, that you don't have to pay a lot of money. So some examples from others. Oh wait, sorry. One more from me. My colleague Ben actually wrote this email for our subscription campaign. And what I love about it, it starts with the subject, for the guitar fans. I think here you're speaking to a broad enough audience, but a specific enough audience. So we sent this email to people who had recently attended a jazz guitar show. We got a great open rate and click-through rate for a subscription email, I think. What I love about it is that the whole email is pretty conversational. I'm going to pull out one sentence. We know your interests are just as diverse as jazz guitar, so we offer you the opportunity to handpick your own unique concert series. So taking it back to their interest and then showing them that is how we're applying it. It's all about the user. Then we go right into the benefits. Did you know you automatically qualify? There are savings. It's easy. Subscribing is easy. It can be. So that's one point we really wanted to make to our readers. Okay, I know there's some ALA folks in the room here. Eric shared this email with me and I love it. Subject, these tickets have your name on them. There's a theme going on here. We're talking to you. We're talking to one person. And what I really loved about this email is that when you opened it up, there was a graphic with the reader's name on it. That's kind of cool. I have no idea how to do that, but I would love to know. So I might call you guys up after. But I think also what they're doing is weaving in a great holiday message that is on brand with their institutional voice, but they're selling something. Treat yourself and your loved ones to ALE tickets this holiday season. I love that right after that, they wish you a joyous holiday season. That's a nice touch. And I think that them reminding you that an experience at ALE can lift your spirits is really important. It's coming back to that emotional connection to the art. It's not just saying bye now. It's not just repeating exactly what is happening that night. It's talking about the actual experience of seeing their art in action. And last but not least, they have a great message about savings. And of course, a call to action. Equinox. I think fitness brands do a great job of speaking directly to their customers. And I got this email from Equinox. I was curious, okay? So it's always more fun with a partner, the subject. What does that mean? Could mean a lot of things. Okay, but my point is that when I was curious enough to open it, I had a feeling that this probably was a sales message if it was coming from Equinox. That's a lot of what they send me. But I took another look. Take on the club together. What I love about what they're doing here is actually grabbing onto another trend, which is in fitness that if you have a workout buddy, you're definitely more accountable, right? Results are sweeter when shared. What a great way of saying, if you come with your friend, you know you're going to come, so you have to come, like whatever. But results are sweeter when shared, right? That's amazing. So I really love this example. I think fitness brands, like I said, do a great job of this. And this next example is a clear feature over benefits moment. David Barton is not showing you a picture of 30 treadmills. They're not saying, we have the most weights in New York City. They're not saying, you'll never have to wait for a treadmill. We all know those are things that you look for when you're joining a gym, but I want to look better naked. I'll say it. This next example from NatureBox. Anybody know NatureBox? Yeah, okay, cool. A few fans out there. I was a subscriber to NatureBox for a while. It's one of these monthly mail order things, and it was really great for a while until I started eating the entire box. And it turns out that if you eat the entire box, it's still not that healthy. But what I love that NatureBox does here is they reframe the conversation, right? So something as boring as croutons, and they literally call them croutons. Boring croutons, step aside. I had this idea in my head of literally watching a crouton being pushed out of the way by the guacamole topper or whatever, guacamole bite. I had that idea in my head, and maybe that sounds crazy, but I think what they're doing really successfully is giving you a new perspective, right, on something that's boring traditionally. I also like that they pulled in a user here. It looks like the pro snacker Amy was the one who actually originally posted this photo. So let's talk about it. This brings me to my next point. The food industry does a really great job of being silly. No idea is too silly to test. Being silly is fun. The arts, I think, have a kind of an old school idea from their audience sometimes that we can be conservative, rigid, uptight, that going to Lincoln Center is a formal experience. Maybe it is sometimes, but we all know that we're trying to get people to understand that the arts are more than that. They can be fun, they can be warm, they can be welcoming. So, in my opinion, no idea is too silly to test. Sticking with the food theme. A1. I don't use A1, although I really like steak. A1 won several awards for this campaign, which is less about copy and more about using the features of Facebook successfully to make a point, but I love that they're in a relationship with steak. Okay. A1 knew that the market was changing in the food industry, so they knew that there's the rise of veganism, vegetarianism, all of these healthy eating, different types of eating trends. There was a huge article, I think, last week in the New York Times or NPR or something about not eating processed red meat. And A1 knew they had to find a way to reinvigorate people's interest in what they had to offer. They're in a relationship with steak, but they're also friends with green beans, turkey sandwich, Chilean sea bass. I love this. So this next example was written by my colleague Emma on the occasion of our season opening this year. Thank you, Megan Trainor, for some serious inspiration. Bronx native Carlos Enriquez is all about that bass. So here we are getting a little silly. Our season opened in the Bronx this year, which is quite different than opening in Manhattan at Lincoln Center, let me tell you that. And the show was featuring Carlos and his music. If you don't know jazz, you may or may not know that shows featuring bass players don't necessarily jump off the shelf. Even though it was a great show, it featured our full orchestra, Wynton was going to be there, it was definitely challenging to make people understand what they were about to see. End result here, our ROI was not quite as high as we've seen on some of the other things, but I love that people got really engaged in the content. We saw some great engagement, some great sharing happening, and in my mind, I think that was worth it, because maybe we're setting the stage for something else. Someone else may have already said it, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with borrowing when you see something you like, right? It's okay. I'm here to comfort you and tell you that it's really okay. In this example from our season on sale last year, we borrowed a quote from Herbie Hancock to talk about Wayne Shorter. So I'm sure a lot of you have used quotes from the New York Times, quotes from other reputable media sources in your advertising, your marketing, whatnot. But here I took a different type of source, we took a different type of source, and used a colleague in the industry, another jazz giant, to talk about what Wayne Shorter had to offer. This season, Wayne Shorter will climb mountains. It had a pretty simple call to action because it was a countdown to an on sale. I think what's important about this post is also the structure of it. There's a headline, there's a call to action with a link, and then it's followed up by that full quote so you know where it's coming from. My next point, don't forget to warm up the crowd. I would bet money that many of you have degrees in the arts. Anyone? Anyone out there? Yeah, me too. So we all know that setting the stage for a performance is really important. You're letting your audience get prepared, get ready for what they're about to take in, what they're about to see. And I think when you're writing copy for the web, for digital, you're doing just that. You're taking your customers on a journey with you. You're getting them ready to hear a message. And sometimes you don't just go right out with the sales message. Sometimes you get them ready to see it or receive it. So in this example, last spring, it was the 100th birthday of Billie Holiday, or what would have been. It was her centennial. And we had several events celebrating Billie Holiday over the course of our season. Our social media manager started to warm up the crowd about a week before the first concert with this. A great quote from Billie Holiday herself, "If I'm going to sing like someone else, then I don't need to sing at all." With a great photo. The amazing thing about this post is that it had a reach of 159,000, shares of nearly 2,000, and the best part, we didn't spend any money. Yay. Everybody likes to hear that, right? No money. So later on, when something else wasn't selling as well, we had to run an ad for our Rose Theater show, which was a bit tricky to communicate about. This show was just called literally that, I think, Celebrating Lady Day. It featured 3 different vocalists, so there wasn't one person to really hang our hat on. And in this case, we got a little playful, "Happy birthday, Lady Day." and mention that they're all paying tribute to the original lady with the gardenia in her hair. I think what works for this post is the fact that it's not just a sales message. It is telling them that there's a party. We're celebrating somebody's birthday. It's going to be fun. You should be a part of it. And you don't want to miss out on something so iconic and so special. So that's just it. Great language drives great numbers. That brings me to my fourth point. Practice makes perfect. We all know that practicing an instrument, memorizing a part, all of these things, and practicing all the work that you do is an important part of reaching the ultimate goal. So my point is, keep trying and try again. In our subscription campaign over 4 months, we send close to 70 emails, and on one day we might send up to 15 versions of nearly the same exact email targeted to a different segment group, just to see what's working. And that's my point. Keep trying. Those same people might be hit over and over and over again with messages. If you keep saying subscribe now over and over and over again, they're going to tune you out eventually. So you have to vary the messaging over the course of that journey. Digital is the perfect place to fail fast and fail cheaply. Digital is not risking your money, risking $20,000 on a print ad in the New York Times that has a typo in it. The good news about Facebook is that you can always edit that post. But my point is, it's the perfect environment to test things out. You know what's working and what's not almost immediately because of tracking. I wanted to share this failure analysis checklist because it's really helpful to me. And I think what's key here, you can download this from unstuck.com, but some of the big takeaways for me are, and what they identify as big takeaways, what were you astonished by? What did you expect to happen that didn't? And what did you expect to happen that did? Failure doesn't have to be a bad word, especially in the digital space. All you can do is learn from your mistakes and keep going. And lastly, in regards to practice, almost everything will work again if you unplug it, including you. And my point is that sometimes it's really helpful to take a break and come back to it. Refocus on what you're thinking about, what you're concentrating on. I know how much pressure there is sometimes to get that post up, to get the email out the door. Tickets aren't selling, what are we going to do, what are we going to do? But take the time to come up with the right message so that when you do send it out, it's going to get the right results. And take a break. That's okay too. So, okay, good. I'm going to close in the style of David Letterman and count down from number 10. I wanted to share with you my top 10 least shameless copywriting tricks because there's nothing shameless about using things that are at your fingertips to make your life easier. Number 10, right-click for synonyms. Wholly obvious. Okay. Does anyone else use this as much as I do? Because I think it's kind of, yay, oh, awesome. Okay. There's a whole world out there of right-clickers. Okay. Anyway, the point is, we were talking about calls to action. Buy tickets now. How many different ways can you try to figure out to say just that? Instead of come see, and right-click may not always be the tool for this, but you get the point. Instead of come see, can you ask somebody to witness something? Instead of asking them to buy, let them know that you're saving a spot for them. Tell them that they're not going to want to miss what you have to offer them. So mix up your calls to action. Number 9. This is just a great graphic with some sharks enjoying a Snickers presentation, but it's really an easy way to get to. Try a drive-by with an innocent third party. So if you're working on something and you have no idea how someone else is going to experience it or take it in, call up your mom. Go down to the technology department. Talk to someone in finance. They're always interested. How are you going to sell those tickets? Tell me. My point is, run what you're trying out for someone else. Take it outside of marketing. You might be a team of 1. You might be a team of 10. Show it to someone who has no idea what you've been talking about. It's a good way to get a reaction. And I think that instantaneous reaction, if you're really observing it, is the key to know what's going to be successful. Number 8, choose your words. I can't say that enough. I think that language might be the first thing that someone sees. Think about it, an email subject. How many emails do you ignore every day because the subject isn't compelling enough? Banana Republic sends me emails every single day. I kind of only open them when it's a sale. But I mean, my point is that if that's the first thing your audience is going to see, you have to be really careful about it. So choose your words. Number 7, hold a best of the worst brainstorm. And everybody's invited, by the way. This is one of my favorite things to do at our office. I think that creating a space where people can say whatever is on their mind is really important. Winton wrote a document a few years ago when he was thinking about the next 25 years of jazz at Lincoln Center. And in it, one of his key points was embrace the ideas of all staff and nurture creativity. Create a positive space for people to talk about what you're doing. And so by best of the worst, I mean, break out the chips, the wine, the candy, whatever it takes, and have a brainstorm. So this is an example of a show that we were working on. It's coming up this January. And we were working on this last winter, about a year ago, to come up with a title. We often have to come up with titles at our organization because we're often presenting concepts. So Blue Light Sonata, what does that mean? Sounds like an album, sounds like a song title. Actually, it's none of those things. It's just an idea. It was something that Winton had come up with when he was conceiving the ideas for this show. So we got it all out there. I probably will never name a concert Close Encounters with the Piano Kind, but it's fun. I probably won't name it Tickling the Ivories or Ebony and Ivory. Yep, Better Together piano duos. The point was that Fred Hirsch was playing a show of solo, duo, and trio piano moments with other instrumentalists. So we were trying to think about how can you convey intimacy, and that's just it. We landed on Fred Hirsch intimate moments. But there you can kind of see how we started somewhere very abstract and ended with something that had the confidence of the artist, had our artistic director's approval, and at the end of the day, we knew it was something that our audiences would understand. Number 6, imitation is the best form of flattery. We talked a little bit about being inspired by brands that you follow, testing things out. And for me, sports is an area of inspiration, personally. If you know me, you know that I also play soccer on the side. But that's why this example was key to me. Christopher brought it to my attention a while ago, and I got so excited by it that I subsequently hopped on Facebook, liked the Houston Dashes page, and then got even more excited when I discovered that Carly Lloyd was on the team and that she was like the amazing star of the Women's World Cup last summer. But anyway, the point here, I love what they did with this post. They're taking 2 teammates who had a personal moment, and they're really humanizing these people for their audience. Why can't the arts do that too? And it happens to be a great vehicle to promote an event as well. Awesome. There she is, Carnegie Hall. Anybody here from Carnegie Hall? Okay. Oh, yay, great, okay. So I get off the subway at Carnegie Hall every day. So anyway, I see this often. How could I not say it? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. When I was strategizing on this session, I was trying to think of, okay, it's so easy to say practice, but how do you actually practice? And the example that I came up with, right now, in my own newsfeed on Facebook, I see pictures of babies. I'm just at that point in my life. Everybody I know has a baby. Some of them are on their second babies. They're all very, very cute. This weekend, we're going to start seeing babies in lobster costumes and pumpkins and soccer balls and all kinds of fun things. They're all really cute. All these babies are super cute. But why is it that when some people post about their babies, and by the way, 2 of those cute baby mamas are here, India and Becca, but why is it that when some people post about their babies, they get so many more likes than other people, right? Like, The babies are all cute. Is it the time of day that they post? Is it the picture? Is it the baby? God, I hope not. Maybe it's how they're framing the conversation. What do they have to say about that moment in their baby's life? And why should you care about it? So my point is, I encourage you have your own unique digital social network that you can practice on all the time. What works there? What works there, take it and apply it to what you're doing at work. Number 4, don't be afraid of white space. Go Team Hillary. Anyone? I love this email from Hillary's campaign because it feels like it's coming right from her to you. It's not very complicated. It's rather simple, actually. When you read it, you feel like she's actually speaking directly to you. This looks like an email I might get at the office, right? Or get from someone in my family. I want you there for my big moment. I need your support. Will you be there for me? She ends with a really clear call to action. It's very simple. And I think that politics are another great area of inspiration, especially if you're in development. This is how you do it. Number 3, being cheesy is not always a bad thing. Again, if you know me, you know that I'm fairly cheesy. I love it. I think it's really fun. Copywriting can be fun. It doesn't have to be frustrating. This example from our audience development campaign or our audience development department, I should say, I absolutely loved. It was a Valentine's Day e-card. And of course, Valentine's Day is very low-hanging fruit. We all know that. It's cheesy by nature. But here we were able to grab onto that trend and make it part of what we had to offer our social media audience. You make me dizzy. And there he is, Dizzy Gillespie. It also helps that we have a jazz club called Dizzy's. So in the back of my mind, it's a really indirect message to remind people about what we have to offer them. And we got great reach and engagement on this post. Number 2, start with the basics. Right message, right customer, right time. You don't always have to be clever or inventive with copy if you're doing those things. If you're speaking to them at the time they want to hear it about something they want to hear about. This email example from our holiday show single ticket campaign last year, I think kind of nails that one. The subject isn't super complicated. Act now for the best prices to big band holidays. We only sent it to just under 800 people, but we saw $37,000 worth of tracked revenue. When you get into the email itself, it reminds them that this is popular. If you don't act now, you're going to miss out. It's really short. It's not complicated. Right message, right customer, right time. And number 1, we started out with this, but it's important to stay curious. Seek inspiration daily. It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day world that we're all in. There's so many things grabbing at your attention all the time. But I encourage you to find the inspiration that works for you so that you can have the best results at your organization. Thank you.